Maybe we should all check out Britney Spears' 10 Pointers for Life.
I'm going to because
that she released yesterday. Britney Spears, My Pointers for Life. She released yesterday on Instagram. She was posting a bunch of pictures of her in some type of wedding gown or something like that, and she's ready to get married. Yeah, right. Well, she can now. Yeah,
she's engaged.
So she's posting pictures of her with her fiance, and
her nails done.
And she was being silly.
Her nails done. Or they still
I never even look at her fingers.
Okay.
Number 1. Smile whenever you can, even on your worst day ever. You're not having a bad day, are you?
No, but I don't.
Men, number 2. Men, you got to keep your woman satisfied. If not, there's going to be hell to pay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Happy wife, happy life?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of generic, but yes. Okay.
Number 3. I actually like this one. Go back to holding hands if you're in a relationship. Remember what a big deal that used to be when you were 13.
That's a good one. The first 2 were kind of like,
I'm trying to figure out where that one came from. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good.
Brittany, that was good.
We did a whole show about this.
Dude,
about touching hands.
Don't you remember your girl?
We had a great conversation about judging people. I did in church. I like to look at couples when there's a husband and wife with 3 kids. Is he on one end and she's on the other and the kids are in the middle? Something wrong. So I'm sorry, something wrong. Because the wife or the husband always comes first, and the kids need to see that, and then the kids are second. It's not to say you'd love anybody more or less or whatever, and we always said, and you mentioned this, when you see a couple walking together, now it depends on what the situation is. Yeah. Whenever you see Joe and Jill, I'll give them this, they're holding hands. They hold hands a lot. Melania and Donald, he tried, but she would...
Their relationship's a little more complicated.
But if you got somebody in your life that doesn't like to hold hands, you got problems. And it's not, well, maybe they're just not PDA or they don't public displays.
Because
there's something wrong.
Holding hands is the least, it's the most intimate, but it's the least of, if you're not into PDA, it's the safest. Do you remember your first, your first girlfriend or whatever, the first time you held her hand?
Oh, man,
yes. And in our age, do people put their arms around each other? Do you remember that whole thing?
Yeah. I mean, we used to do the old,
No, not in the movie. No. When you're boyfriend and girlfriend, you put your arm. You remember? I don't think people do that anymore.
We used to even ask the question, this is how far sex has gotten out of control. But we used to ask the question, by the way, we got a story about sex today, too. Why we feel the need to do it everywhere now. People are doing it on altars. They're doing it in parks. There's all these videos. But are you holding hands? That was the question. It wasn't like, did you get to second base or did you do it with her yet? Do you guys hold hands?
Yeah, you guys hold
hands. Because if you're holding hands, that's the beginning. Because we have 5 fingers and you can feel it, and there's a lot of nerve endings and stuff. Yeah. Holding hands is like, that's why old couples don't have to have sex when they're 80. If they hold hands, is as good as sex. It really is.
I'm going to run this by my 20-year-old, my 22-year-old. I was just thinking about this.
You should.
No, not the holding hands part. But it was a big deal when you had a girlfriend or boyfriend. You put your arm in public, not at the movie. You put your arm around them, and do you remember what you did? I don't know, but it was a West Coast thing. What you did with your hand? You had it in their back pocket.
Oh, yeah.
That was not a thing. Do you remember that?
I mean, I've done it, but I wasn't.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, so you could have your arm around them, but if you had it in your back pocket, and see, this is that whole. We didn't know what we didn't know then. Because if you had your hand in your back pocket, I mean, his back pocket. Yeah. But that was a signal that y'all were really, you were tired.
And then at second base on holding hands is interlocking fingers.
Yeah, that's right.
Because if I'm holding a hand like this, I'm not holding your hands with my grandma. You're my wife or my girlfriend.
My daughter's hands.
Now, if she's got really baby hands and my knuckles are kind of big and it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
My daughter and I have this thing, and it's pretty funny. We have this thing where, and kids do this a lot, where your pointer finger interlocks between their pointer fingers when you hold hands. And so I would always do that, and she likes it that way because it's this way. And so I would wrap my finger around her whole hand like this, and then she gets, and it's our little joke, and she'll go like this, and then she'll do it again. But yeah, hold hands, very good, Brittany. Number 4, never go to bed hungry.
Yeah, I know. Some people do. I don't. Maybe she's Jewish. Jewish people don't go to bed hungry ever.
Why?
Because it makes us nervous.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're doing it right, you're not supposed to eat 3 hours prior to going to bed.
Yeah, but Jewish people always have this thing because you don't know, because we were in the desert.
But Jewish people aren't fat, are they?
No, but you always get a little bit of something to eat before you go to bed.
Really?
Yeah, because you're worried that because
man, I am turning into my mother that way because I'll fall asleep in my chair and then I'll get up.
Mouth?
No, I'll get up and then I'm like, I got to have something to eat before I go to bed.
Oh,
that's horrible.
Every single night. It's terrible for your health. I do it every night.
Sleep lots.
Yep.
They all can
Brittany.
wait. I mean, this is your dream.
Okay, Brittany. Okay, Brittany, of all the ones so far, I like the holding hands one.
Eat something sweet. It keeps you happy. That's number 6.
Okay.
Number 7. You'll like this one. Don't be scared to be foolish and randomly hug someone today. I do like
not today.
I like the one. Don't be scared to be foolish.
Yeah, the randomly hugging.
She's pretty much used that one as her.
No, I think Brittany's great that way. I think randomly hugging someone in this for a number of reasons. In this day right now.
Yeah.
You don't randomly hug somebody.
No, you can hug. You're good. We're 70% vaccinated. Yeah. We're good. Laugh a lot. Number 8.
I thought she said smile was like number 2. All right, Brittany, you need like 5.
8. Cry when you need to.
Okay. I'm with you on that one.
And number 10. Say your prayers.
I'm going to use on Instagram. I don't remember which number it was. Hold hands. It was important when we were 13.
Yep.
And cry.
That's actually a good one.
And cry when you need to. Cry when you need to is super important because it's mostly men, but it's not just men. This whole idea of I can't cry, I'm not going to cry, it's usually because we're afraid, and we're afraid that if I cry, it's always the same thing. You see this in men in therapy. If I cry, I'm afraid that I'm going to, like, my tears, I'm going to turn into crying hysterically.
Yeah.
I won't be able to control it.
Yeah. No.
99.9% of the time, whatever amount of crying you're doing, you can control it.
You ever make yourself cry when you're alone?
Yeah, no. Oh, so I do. I told you that. I test, because I'm pretty, I get.
Do you have a go-to video?
Well, no, not a video. It's sad love. It's cheesy love songs. I have certain ones, and I actually do it if I have been kind of like emotionally detached for a while. Just I'm busy. My head's not in a good space. I have this weird thing like I need to test that I still can be sensitive.
Yeah.
So what I do is I usually, this is so cheesy. I can't believe I say this stuff on the air. I go out in the backyard.
Yeah.
Or I drive, but it depends. Like I get on my lawnmower, put my headphones in, and I mulch the leaves or I cut the grass. And, people don't know what I'm listening to, but chances are I'm listening to a cheesy love song, and you can't see it because it just looks like allergies, but I'm boo-hooing. And I'm like, 20 minutes.
That's a psychologist, folks. That's a psychologist saying that, so it's okay.
That's the thing. Or I do it driving. I mean, again, not all the time, but I do it to like, it's almost like, I don't know, it's like keeping your engine good. You take the car out for a spin. Yeah. That's what it's like. And if you're a guy, do it. Do it. Like there are things that for most of us, there are things that make us feel emotional. It doesn't even always have to be sad, but emotional. And particularly for men, we are so used to not going there that when it comes up, we immediately detach because we're
you remember I love the show because it was based off real life events, but Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yes.
So if you go back and watch that show, every show theme had something to do with somebody in the writing camp saying, let's talk about this today. This happened in my family. But there was a scene where he leaves, Ray leaves to go to work, and he looks through the window for some reason. He forgets his keys or whatever, and he sees his wife in the house crying. And he's freaking out because obviously it's Everybody Loves Raymond. Right. He thinks it's his fault, so it's all about him, right? But he's like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. And he's like, why were you crying? She's like, I do it all the time. And he's like, why? She's like, dude, like once or twice a week I cry. I don't even know why I'm doing it. It's just part of who I am and what I do. And I'm kind of, there's is her name Bella Hadid, the model?
Yeah.
She posted something yesterday. I was going to talk about it, but I really didn't know where to go with it. But she said, now she's got bigger issues, it seems like. And I didn't read the story, so I don't know. But she says she cries every day, twice a day. She cries. She cries. She goes, I cry every morning and I cry every night.
That's a lot.
And she posted an Instagram post of her crying. And that is, that's one of those things, Listen, we've got a lot of friends of ours. Rachel Barbeau, who is
Rachel's different.
She has
Rachel's
no mask.
Yeah.
She has posted lots of videos of her crying.
She can't. Yeah.
And when you see someone actually crying on video.
Yeah.
Now, if you're on video and you're talking about something and then you start to break down.
Yes.
That's different.
Yep. I agree.
But to start the thing rolling when you're already midstream, that is, I don't know if that's self-fulfilling. I don't know if that's what is. I don't know if that's patron. I don't know what that is. That's kind of like, okay, you're crying, you're in the middle of it. Why do you feel the need to make a video right now? Now, if you're trying to help people or you're supportive group,
that's Rachel.
Yeah.
I can't do. I mean, for me, it would be like it's almost like sex. If I went to turn on the video, I'd stop crying. It would take me out of my moment.
Yeah.
The act of now, if I was riding my lawnmower, listening to my cheesy love songs, crying, and somebody brought a camera, I might just keep crying.
Okay, we should try that one time.
Oh God,
we've got this photographer who has shot over 2,000 weddings. She's been doing it for 13 years. Her name's Shayla Harrington. She recently took to TikTok to share the 3 signs. She's like, listen, I've been around marriages. Right. I've shot 1 million photos. And I can tell you right now, there's 3 different instances that when I see them when I'm shooting photos, I know the marriage is doomed. Now, I don't know if she's followed up with these people.
Right.
I don't know if but she's like, I can tell just by watching these 3 things that chances are it ain't going to fly. Do you want to hear what they are?
Yeah, because
the one that kind of makes sense to me, just because you might get a few with your mom and dad, but the number one thing is if one of the spouses takes more than 3 photos without their partner. Which actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it. This one kind of makes sense to me just because you might get a few with your mom and dad, but kick them out. More than 3 photos seems a little suspicious. So if you're constantly in photos with your groomsmen, with your sister, with your mom and dad, but she said any more than 3 without your new bride or groom in those photos, she said, I'm a little like...
Because that you're asking for, because usually the photographer is the one who's kind of driving the boat, right? Like usually, like, come on, we got to get there. I didn't.
Let's do this, or let's do that.
Yeah, I didn't.
And she points in that direction, but it should be about the bride and groom, and these are on wedding days, okay? So if you're doing pictures, those, we always do. Now again, she could be on one end, you could be on the other. You do the funny picture.
Yeah.
You do the serious picture, you do the goofy picture where all the grandkids are sticking their tongues out, blah 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 blah. But if you're in more than 3 photos without your spouse on your wedding day, that is a telltale sign. Second indicator is the bridesmaids or the groomsmen will avoid talking about the spouse when they're getting ready to do a toast or anything, which explains typically means they don't like the spouse.
Wait, what? Say it again.
If the bridesmaids or the groomsmen aren't talking about the groom or the bride. In other words, if your groomsmen are all there and they're not talking about your wife at all.
Yeah.
Or if the bridesmaids are there and they're not talking about the groom. Which means...
Yeah. Well, I remember when we were in college, and it was great. And so the toast is all about, you're toasting to the groom. You're toasting to the bride and groom, but it's all about, Yeah, that makes sense.
And Shayla revealed that the third indicator of marriage will not last is when the couple spend more time with family and friends than with each other during their day. That one is kind of like, it depends.
Because, I mean, I remember you're all over the place.
It depends. If you've been together a long time.
Yeah.
It's more, well, I've known some people that were together 7-8 years, and the what this means when you're spending more time with extended family because you haven't seen people in a long time, you're having a big party, it's more about...
Yeah, it's not about the wedding.
It's not about the wedding. It's more about, okay, we've been together for a long time. It's a formality.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Listen, I think in weddings, I think that the ceremony itself is probably the only piece that is really about the bride and groom. The party's not. It's a big party. I mean, well, let me take this back. Obviously, there's different kinds of weddings. You can have big parties, you can have small parties, you can have, but the ceremony is by design focused on you. Yeah. And that's where your connection should be. The party afterwards, I think there's more room for all kinds of stuff. I don't think you have... you got to visit family. You got to visit the other family. I've always said this: the party is really not about you. It's the ceremony's about you and the honeymoon's about you. Everything else is all about your.
Yeah, but you know what they used to do?
Huh?
The bride and groom left.
Yeah, which made total sense.
But you don't do that now. You stay to the end, and then it's you and her staying there.
Total makes. I think.
Yeah, you used to leave halfway through the thing. You're like, we're starting a honeymoon. See y'all. Have a great time at the party. Make sure you get home safe. We'll talk to you later. We're going to Klapow.
We should go back to that. I think
I do too. You used to do the cans in the back of the car, and you're gone. You didn't wait till the end of the. You didn't say goodbyes.
You're exhausted, and again, the somewhere between 50 and 350 people are there. They're there to celebrate. Mm-hmm. Not even with you necessarily there.
Yeah.
I think you should do it virtual. Do a Zoom. You can just dial in.
Isn't that interesting though when you get somebody that is part of something that you don't? Because a photographer's there to do a job,
right?
And I thought it was really interesting that a photographer actually had a take on.
Oh, I do because
I've been groomsman.
So have I.
4 or 5 times.
Yeah, so have I.
And I knew the day of the wedding that I wasn't going to go, and that really made me feel bad because I was like,
I've been,
and I didn't like. And to the second point, I wasn't crazy about her because I saw how it changed him.
Yeah.
And I know this guy. I've known him longer than you have, and I know he's not going to change just because. And so he was acting outside of his element or who he really was. Guys seem to change more than girls do in that particular situation. And I mean, there was one wedding in particular where I was like, I almost felt the need to say something before the wedding. I couldn't do it on the day of.
Did they get divorced?
We were taking bets, like how long it was going to last, and I felt horrible about that because I'm like, this is their special day, and I was praying that it was going to go great, but they were so far. I knew him. I knew there were some secrets. Not that he was cheating or anything, but I knew there's some things he did that she didn't know about.
Yeah.
And she was really kind of forcing the issue. We've been together for 3 years. Let's go. He's like, she's great. I love her. And I know I'm never going to find a woman as good, so I might as well do this. That kind of thing. Because we had a lot of conversations. We had the bachelor party, which was cool. Nothing crazy happened there. But I mean, I knew. And I wasn't the only one. Because someone came up and said, $10. How long is it going to last? I was like, dude, come on. It's their wedding day.
Right.
And of course I put in. But
I've been wrong. I've been in enough weddings. My track record on what I thought was going to last and what I didn't, I'm not very good at it.
Really?
Yeah, because I've been in a couple that I was in. I'm like, there ain't no way, not more than a year. And I can think of one of them, they're coming up on 20.
Let me ask you this. Because we've had Dr. Misty Smith on, she said 17 to 20 years is the pivotal moment. There's no 7-year itch anymore.
Yep.
It's because that's normally when the kids are old enough, they're going out, people start doing their own things. You've gone through this 12 or 13 or 14 years of, I don't even see you anymore because we're driving kids to school and we're doing classes and taekwondo and all these things. Next thing you know, you're like, who the hell are you? And you have to reestablish yourself. You're kind of going through that with an empty nest situation. Is there a year of marriage? How long do you have to be married to say that you would say the marriage was successful? And now I know there's probably some Catholics going, forever. It's got to be forever or if it's successful. I would say that a lot of people would say that if you can make it 15, 16 years, we had a good run. We had a good shot, and it didn't work. But I would say that it was worth getting married because we made it 15 years.
That's interesting.
Which is really, it's really kind of sad because when you do commit, you're committing for life.
I was just going to say that is. I'm trying to think of what.
But if you've been married for 32 years and you decide to get a divorce, I'm like, 32 years is a long time. You gave it a shot.
But it gets to you. You always use this. You always describe it this way. We've been married 32 years, and then it didn't work out. That's great. Of the 32 years, how many of them were good years? 6.
Yeah.
So I mean, like that.
But you stayed together. You tried.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if it's miserable, if you're there for 30 years and it's miserable for 20, then it wasn't a successful 30 marriage. It was a successful 10.
Yeah. Well, assuming that every year was pretty decent. Because obviously,
you don't get to
unless there's some major moment where he cheats or does something or kills
like
somebody,
this.
It's death by 1,000 cuts over the course of a 10 or 15 years. So to sit there and say the last 10 years sucked there was good times. It was just more difficult than the first 10. But I would say if you can make it to 20 years, you probably.
See, I'd argue it doesn't. It's. I think it's the whole satisfaction thing. Like, I think that if you look back and if you break up at any point, 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, you say, okay, we're done. How many years were good years?
Yeah.
Collectively. Out of the 10, 5 were really good.
Yeah.
Then you had
3 were a little off, 2 were horrible.
Right. Then the 5 is how long the good run was.
Yeah.
The rest of it, you just were hanging in there.
Yeah.
I think that, listen, that's what changed, minus the Catholic religion. In the late 70s, it fundamentally changed the way we thought about marriage.
Yeah.
Because what we thought about was, this is not working. This is not working. Why are we still here? Mm-hmm. And so it went from, we're just going to see this through, good or bad, which I understand both from a religious standpoint and kind of a superficial standpoint. But what people started realizing was, okay, we're going to see this through, good or bad. It's really bad. It's bad for me. It's bad for you. It's bad for the kids. What if we just don't stay together?
Yeah.
And then marriage became less of a, I'll say this, less of a life sentence.
Yeah. Well, that's when you had to start working on it. And I don't think enough people do that. Listen, you committed to it, then don't commit. Just live together.
Yeah, but you don't know when you commit. A lot of times you don't know.
I gotta go religious on you here, because it's one of the 7 sacraments. It's a sacrament. It's like baptism or anything else.
I agree.
It's serious.
Yeah.
If you're going to commit to somebody for your life, there's a priest up there or a minister. You've done it. And they're going to say, listen, this is not a 10-year deal. This is not a 5-year deal. This is for better, for worse. Things are going to suck. You have to make a lot of sacrifices. You have to work your ass off at it. Are you committed to that? If you're like, hey, listen, if I can make it 20 years and we get divorced, then don't get fucking married.
Yeah, but
don't do it.
Yeah, but
this is not a novelty. This is not fun. This is serious shit.
But I think listen.
And a lot of people don't take that seriously anymore. They don't.
I agree, but I also think a lot of people do take it seriously, but at the time, I don't want to say in the moment.
Well, sure.
At the time, you don't know. Right? You do think you're taking it seriously.
Well, that's when you have to commit to, hey, listen, when the times get tough, we need to sit down and communicate and talk this out.
Yeah, but you can say that.
If you love each other enough to say, listen, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, then we need to figure this out.
But you think you do. So that's the problem. You think you do. And then you get to this point where, not everybody, but some couples get to this point where we can't figure this out. And then it gets to what you've talked about. Are we going to stay together because we made a promise to stay together, even though fundamentally this is not working out? It's not working out. That's a judgment call.
Would you say that in most cases, I'm throwing out someone screwing around, infidelity, which could be deal breakers for a lot of people. It's not supposed to be, but it can be. It should be. Because I do think most marriages are death by a thousand cuts. There's little things, resentments that build up over the course of a period of time. They're not big enough to really have communication or skills of, hey, listen, this really, but they build up over a period of time. Right. We talk about the divorce spoon, right? The divorce spoon is that. Most of those things are fixable. We all change, we all grow, we ebb and flow, we change jobs, we move, we do different things.
They are fixable.
Our sex drive gets different, a libido, we have children, we got all these things. Marriage is hard. But they're all fixable. They're all things. There's not one thing where I can't believe she does this anymore and I can't handle it and I'm going to divorce. I'm going to throw away the last 20 years of my life with this individual and our family because of this one particular thing. There may be a straw that breaks the camel, but they're all fixable. They're all things. And as we grow, funny thing is, it's a two-way street. There's shit you're doing too that she doesn't like. And so that's where I think, we really throw honor out anymore. We don't even honor each other anymore. We don't. And that's to this photographer's point. We don't honor each other anymore. We support each other because we have to. My wife's always going to be right or my husband's always right because I'm married to him and we're part of one. Well, you're not really one. You're two different people that cause a union. And so we don't really honor each other. And so that's where I think it's important that you have those communications. Hey, listen, I don't think you're doing things right. And it doesn't. There's a lot of people I think that are afraid to communicate because they're afraid oh my gosh, this is going to piss her off and it may ruin my marriage. Well, that's ridiculous. But if you're committed enough when you got together.
It's not just going to piss her off. I mean, yes. So there's conflict avoidance all the time.
Yeah.
We dance around it.
Men are the worst at it.
Yeah. Men are. Not always. There are a lot of women who will stay in a relationship and not address any of the issues with a man.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruffle feathers.
Yeah.
I don't want. So there's both. Yeah. But I think it's more than. So it's the avoidance of I don't want to piss it. I don't want to rock the boat. But I tell you the other piece that's deeper and it's even harder. I don't want to have to change.
Yeah.
If we get into this conversation and you are not satisfied with something that is about me, then in order for us to stay together, yes, you're going to have to compromise, but I'm going to have to change.
Yep.
And I will tell you that most couples who end up breaking up, it's because one or the other or both won't or can't. And this is, I think, the more important part. This is a little deep. There are some things that people can't change. That's dispositional. It's who they are. Yep. And the problem you have is that as you get older and you start evolving, some of the bad stuff, if you will, that wasn't as much of an issue early on or that you could cover up, it starts coming through.
Yeah.
And then you do get to these points. I've seen couples where it's not a knockdown, drag out fight. It's this deep sinking feeling. Oh my God, this is who they are. Mm-hmm. They can fake it. Yep. They can fake it for a long time, but this is who they are. And then you have the decision: am I going to live in this way with who they are?
Well, and that's why we always talk about the three bubbles, right?
Yes.
You gotta have one. You got to be you. He's got to be you, and they got to overlap. And yeah, you're right. I do think in a lot of cases when you're constantly making someone change, whether it's geographically, whether it's financially, whatever those things are, and I know I use this word sacrifice, and I know you don't like when I say that. You're not making sacrifices for sake of just making sacrifices.
No.
You make sacrifices in your marriage whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
But if you're the one that's always the one that's constantly changing and the other one's going, well, you need to change in order for us to have a better life together, and you're like, this is not making it better for me. That's why it's super important that she's got her life, he's got his life, and together they work together. And, so that's interesting. That's good. But photographer had it best.